Found Duckling by EvaDragon, Chapter 26, Constantine and the Martian. Summary: Danny traumatizes Constantine, then spends some quality time with Martian Manhunter. Oi, bats! What in the bloody hell did I walk into this time? Constantine called as he walked out of the Zeta tube in the cave. He damned near fell on his arse from the death aura permeating the place. One of the bat brats, TM, was bent over a table looking at what appeared to be some blueprints. Constantine didn't know which one that was, but he'd long since lost count of how many bats collected. The man had a problem with a capital P. The kid at the table looked up him, and Constantine could have sworn his blue eyes were glowing for a second. "What the fuck is wrong with you?" Danny screeched. Tim, Jason, and Dick came pelting at a full sprint into the area where Danny was working. Upon hearing Danny's call of distress, Constantine held up his hands in surrender, hoping beyond hope that he wasn't about to be tackled by 3 of the bats. Dick was holding his eskrima sticks, and they were electrified. Jason was holding both of his favorite pistols with the safety off, and Tim had pulled out his bow staff. All of them were in battle-ready stances. "Danny, are you okay?" Tim rushed over to Danny's side and was checking him over for any new injuries. "I'm fine. Was just startled. His soul has more holes in it than my gym socks in freshman year, and he smells worse than Jason did before I fixed his corrupted ecto. Like, seriously, what the fuck?" Danny cast another side-eye at the magician. "What the hell do you mean?" John demanded as he ran his hands through his hair. "What am I even doing here?" Bruce chose that moment to appear in the cave with Alfred right behind him. "Constantine." Bruce used his Batman gravelly growl to greet the Brit. "Ah, Master Constantine, Master Bruce. Children, I've brought refreshments, tea, sandwiches, and cookies for desserts," Alfred said as he wheeled the snack cart down to where Danny had been working. Alfred ushered his 5 charges and 1 guest to the lounge area so that they could have their imminent conversation about why they had called the con man to the cave. "So what was so damn important that you dragged me all the damn way to bloody Gotham, bats?" John drawled as he attempted to light up a cigarette only to find it frozen over. "Bloody hell." Danny cackled. Dick, Tim, and Jason looked at him before laughing as well. Bruce just let out a tired dad sigh. "We asked you here so that you could map out the best ley line for us to build a portal," Danny said when he caught his breath. "A fucking what?" John gasped out. "To where?" He was now standing, his hands pulling his hair. Danny grinned, like the gremlin he was. He knew that Constantine hadn't met him in his human form, so he decided to mess the con man a bit. "To the Ghost Zone, better known as the Infinite Realms." John promptly collapsed. "Tim, your brother's a menace," Jason said as he poked the Brit in the cheek to wake him up. Danny merely cackled again. The present BatClan members would have been worried about Joker venom exposure if they didn't already know that Danny tended to lean into his Eldritch horror tendencies, which included cackling like the Wicked Witch of the West whenever he was highly pleased with something. "Don't blame me. I am not responsible for how he grew up. According to Jazz, he came to us that way," Tim replied sarcastically. "Ugh," John groaned as he regained consciousness. He could have sworn the unnamed bat brat TM had said that they were building a portal to the Infinite Realms. But that couldn't be it, right? No one was that stupid, right? Right? Please, for the love of all that is holy, tell him the bats weren't that stupid. Right? Oh, who was he kidding? That's exactly the kind of fucked up thing that the bats himself or one of his brood would say. He looked around the room and sighed. He needed a drink or 20. But he got the feeling that if he reached for one of his 5 flasks, they would be just as frozen as his cigarette. He rubbed his hands through his hair, wincing at a few tender spots where he'd pulled at his hair in his blind panic. Let me get this straight. You want me to build a portal to the infinite realms? John asked, just to make sure he had his facts straight. No, we want you to locate the best ley line here in the cave for us to build the portal. We'll take care of actually building the portal. Danny snarked. The duh was implied. Building a portal like that is impossible, John said with another groan. No, it's not. I have the blueprints. The Fentons did it twice before. Granted, the first one kind of blew up in their partner's face, but the second one actually worked. It's how all the ghosts managed to attack Amity Park. Danny bit back. John felt like he was going to faint. Again. How had the JLD missed that? How in the fuck had that been missed? The Fentons. Shit. He knew that name. That was the name of one of those quack scientists who attacked the UN summit and were also transported to Oa for interdimensional war crimes. John had to take a few deep breaths to steady himself. Nope. No thank you. Fuck that shit. He wanted no part in that. He made a move as to get up and leave, but found his muscles locked in place.
John Constantine, Hellblazer, Laughing Magician, Con Man, Sad Trenchcoat Man. Sit your ass back down. We're not done.
John looked at the as-yet unnamed bat brat TM to see that his eyes were glowing a toxic green and his black hair was standing on ends as though someone had just rubbed a balloon through it for a static effect. Bruce was fighting a smile, but Dick, Jason, and Tim had no such qualms and were actively laughing at John. John hated them all. Master Danny, please don't use ghost speak and scare our guests. Alfred came in and refreshed everyone's tea and scolded the teen whose eyes had been glowing and were now back to an icy blue. Danny ducked his head and murmured a soft, "Yes, Alfred," and accepted his steaming cup of tea. Fuck him running. Did Alfred just say the kid had used ghost speak? Only the denizens of the realms or those like Hood could use ghost speak, which meant that this kid was either dead or dead adjacent. But John at least knew enough not to ask. Fuck, he really needed that drink. Can I at least ask why you're building a portal to the infinite realms? John asked instead of the 20 million other questions bouncing around in his head. He noticed the now named Danny exchange a look with bats before nodding. I need to ingest pure ectoplasm, but the only way to obtain pure ectoplasm is from the realms. I can make my own portals, but they're not ideal for being able to extract ectoplasm. John's head exploded in pain. There's no way he just heard this kid with freaky glowing green eyes that he'd only seen once before on Hood, who was dangerous when his eyes glowed like that, say that he needed to ingest ectoplasm. Not only that, but this kid can make his own fucking portals to the infinite fucking realms. John took a moment before mentally saying fuck it and grabbed his nearest flask. Surprisingly, it didn't ice over, but Bruce did give him a very disapproving stare as he downed half of it. It didn't make the pain go away, but it did at least make him slightly more functional. John took a moment after his drink to study the newest member of the spooky brigade. Something wasn't adding up, and John didn't like it. His eyes roved over the teenager several times before he took a long swing from his flask. He was mid-swallow when his brain caught up to what his eyes were telling him. He choked and spit his vodka medley out at the same time. Bloody fucking hell! Only you, bats, would adopt the king of the infinite fucking realms! John spluttered as he finally realized why the death aura had been so strong in the cave and why the kid had given him the heebie-jeebies. Danny was cackling again. In truth, John knew that most of the furry brigade were death-touched, Hood most of all, and Lady Gotham was the scariest city spirit of them all. But it was no wonder that the kid, if he was even a kid, since there was evidence that Phantom had been around in ancient Rome, China, and Egypt, needed a portal and ectoplasm. John wasn't sure if it was because of time travel shenanigans or if it was because the being in front of him was actually an ancient who just pretended to be a kid. After all, someone who could kick Pariah Dark's ass should probably be treated with all due respect. Unlike the Fentons who just willy-nilly punched a hole through reality into the infinite realms, making Amity Park a literal hotspot for ghosts and other denizens of the realms, we're trying to do this the right way, Danny explained. Now, don't get me wrong, both Amity and Gotham are thin spots in the veil between. The Fentons ultimately decided on Amity because the veil was just a tiny bit thinner there. Which is why you need a ley line, right? Right. Bloody hell. How are you going to keep the denizens from coming out of the portal once it's built? John said out loud. In his head, he was thinking, they're all a bunch of bloody damn winkers. We're not building a full-scale portal. The Fenton's portal was 10 feet tall, 6 feet wide, and 4 feet deep into the wall. Since all we're needing this portal for is ectoplasm extraction, we're scaling it down by a lot. If I need to travel there, I can just make my own portals. Most denizens won't bother shape-shifting to fit through the smaller portal. The second line of defense is going to be a ghost shield installed in front of the portal. The plan is for it to encircle the entire portal. I'm also planning to have a thermos set up to auto-capture and contain any denizens that do somehow come through. One of us will get an alert so that the portal can be closed and then the denizen can be released back into the realms through a tube or something. I haven't quite worked that bit out yet. John groaned. These damn Yanks were all crazy. He knew that. But somehow Bats and his brats were the worst of them. Alright, you get. I'll find your damn ley line, little shit. John walked around the cave and down several tunnels. He avoided the main tunnels as those were too high traffic areas and wouldn't be good, even if they were on a ley line. His eyes were glowing gold as his locator spell flowed through his fingertips. He finally found a spot not too far from the main cave in one of the offshoot tunnels. He called the Bat Brat TM over and informed the kid of his findings. The brat held a few odd-looking contraptions over the spot that John had indicated and nodded sharply. Thank you. This will do nicely, Danny said with an easy smile. John let out a shaky breath and then opened another portal and stepped through with a muttered, bloody fucking hell. John and the others laughed at him while Bruce just sighed. The masters will come up for dinner. Please be sure to wash up properly, Alfred instructed his son and grandchildren. He waited for them to respond before he trekked back up to the dining room so that he could finish the meal preparations. The Waynes followed a bit more demurely, although Jason was a bit breathless by the time they got to the table from laughing so hard. Want a share of the class? Steph looked between the four men as they sat down. It was one of the rare full family dinners, so the table was full. Danny called Constantine sad trenchcoat man to his face. Jason started laughing again, wiping tears from his eyes. Granted, he had wanted the pleasure of doing that, but the opportunity hadn't come up. Still, the look on the magician's face was priceless. He was hoping that some recording equipment in the cave was able to get a shot of it. He would have to ask Tim or Babs about it later. The table erupted in laughter. The Amity Parkers hadn't met Constantine yet, but knowing how much of a chaos gremlin Danny was, well, they could imagine the man's reaction to Danny. The entire family was back down in the cave, suiting up for their patrol. Danny transformed into Phantom, getting himself ready. Tucker took his place at the Bat computer as Pharaoh. Sam would be going out with Spoiler as Chaos. Jazz had decided that she would rather focus on school, but did wish her family to be safe. Before Phantom could float out after Hood, he was stopped by Red Robin. Where do you think you're going? Robin demanded. He almost sounded like a parent who caught their child attempting to sneak out after being grounded. Patrol? Phantom rubbed the back of his neck. Nope, not tonight. Tonight we're going to the watchtower. Come on. Red Robin walked over to the Zeta tube. Phantom eyed them distastefully before entering one. He still didn't like the sensation of the transporter tube scrambling his molecules, but he would put up with it to get to space. Red Robin was waiting for him as he stepped out of the tube, blinking the spots out of his eyes. Red Robin grabbed Phantom's hand to lead him to the monitor room, knowing that if he didn't, Phantom would get sidetracked by every window between the tubes and the monitor room. Well met, Red Robin. Phantom heard a warm voice greet his brother. Phantom entered the room and almost squealed in utter joy. That was Martian Manhunter. Oh, ancients, that was Martian Manhunter. The green-skinned Martian began to chuckle, which caused Phantom to blush. Has Martian Manhunter been able to read his thoughts? Or had Phantom projected them? No, wait. Manhunter was an empath. Shit. Phantom's flush deepened so that his cheeks were nearly purple and his freckles were practically glowing. It looked like a star-speckled night sky but on flesh. Who have you brought with you? He asked, looking at Phantom with a grin playing on his face. Manhunter, this is Phantom. Phantom, Martian Manhunter, Red said with a laugh. He'd caught Phantom geeking out and knew why he was fanboying. I see from your logo that you are part of Batman's group. I did not realize he had gained a new protege, but I do not recognize the logo inside the bat emblem, Manhunter replied after shaking Phantom's hand. He's a recent addition. You're on monitor duty tonight? Red asked. Manhunter nodded. Good. Phantom has been benched from patrolling for a while, but at the same time, it would be extremely detrimental to his health to not be doing something to protect others. Monitor duty at the watchtower was the perfect solution. Phantom glared at his brother and folded his arms across his chest, but he was in space, so he couldn't stay mad at his brother for too long. That is an odd way to phrase him being benched from patrol. Usually patrol is what is detrimental to one's health, yes? Manhunter looked to Red for further explanation. He tried to poke at Phantom's mind, only to find an impenetrable wall. I'm going to have him explain. I've got to get back to Gotham for my own patrol. Phantom, I'll be back at the end of patrol to bring you back to the cave. Phantom stuck his tongue out at his brother, but turned towards Martian Manhunter so that the elder could begin to explain his duties. Martian Manhunter led Phantom towards a wall of nothing but various screens, each of them showing various parts of the world. Manhunter sat down in a chair and used his telekinesis to pull another chair next to him. He motioned for Phantom to join him in front of the screens. Our duty is to watch the screens. If we see something, we alert that city's hero, if they are not already present, so the hero can respond. If the city doesn't have a hero, we alert Superman, Superboy, or one of the speedsters, Flash, Kid Flash, or Impulse. If none of them are available, you will sound a general alert on the watchtower by pressing this button. Manhunter indicated a button on the keyboard. One of the founding members of the League will respond. You'll report what's going on and where it is. The League member will then assign someone to respond to the incident. Any questions? What if it would be faster for me to respond? Phantom asked with a stubborn set to his jaw. Manhunter placed a placating hand on his shoulder. I believe Red Robin would be unhappy with us both if that were to happen, yes? Phantom slumped in defeat. Tim was scary as fuck when he was mad, and Phantom had given him anti-ghost tech. The worst that Jazz could do was soup him. The worst that Tim could do... Nope, not thinking about that. You're right, Phantom looked away in shame for having to be benched. May I ask why Red Robin said it would be detrimental for you to not be helping? Manhunter asked instead of acknowledging Phantom's embarrassment. Have you heard of ghosts? Danny deflected. Yes, I've been kept informed. They prefer to be called denizens, correct? Some of them, yes. But the common term for someone like me is ghost. Ghosts have obsessions that keep them tethered to the mortal realm. Without fulfilling their obsession, a ghost will fade. Final death. Right now, my core has been damaged, and unfortunately, my primary obsession would put me in danger, especially in Gotham, if I try to indulge in it. So I'm guessing Batman and Robin came up with this plan as a way for me to kind of indulge in my primary obsession, but I also get the advantage of indulging in my secondary obsession. Win-win for me. The two spent the rest of the shift watching the monitors and talking. Phantom found Manhunter incredibly easy to speak to, and Manhunter was all too happy to talk to someone who was eager to learn about Martian culture. Most humans looked at Martian Manhunter and his culture as if it were something to be studied, but never truly understood. Phantom wanted to learn, to understand. As they talked, Manhunter eventually informed the young Haffa that he had permission to call him Ja'on. Phantom's glow brightened in happiness at the honor. Phantom had gotten the hang of the monitor system when the automated voice announced Red Robin's return to the watchtower. Phantom's glow never dimmed, but his core had begun purring about an hour after the Gotham vigilante had left. Red Robin let a smile play on his lip as he watched Phantom speak animatedly with Ja'on. Young Phantom, it appears our time for the night has come to an end. I will be up here the rest of the week. Good night. Ja'on bid farewell to the Haffa. Night, Ja'on. See you tomorrow. Phantom replied, beginning to visibly droop. I take it you had fun? Red Robin asked. Phantom nodded, rubbing his eyes to try and stay awake. He's from Mars, Phantom exclaimed just before he entered the Zeta tube. Red Robin heard Ja'on's faint laugh as he too entered the Zeta tube. As they exited, Red Robin turned to his brother. You know Superman is Kryptonian, right? Phantom let his transformation rings wash over him, but his glow was no less dimmed. He was still a few feet in the air. He's an alien, and you didn't tell me? Several others had returned to the cave by this point, and they all started laughing at Danny's theatrics. Only Sam and Tucker were left in confusion. Had Amity really been in that much of an information blackout or that behind? As the rest of the vigilantes laughed at them, the answer was yes. Yes, it was. Dick finally took pity on the younger trio and filled them in on what they knew about Superman and his origins. Phantom almost had stars in his eyes again, but it was ruined by a jaw-cracking yawn. Tim led his brother upstairs. Danny was valiantly fighting off sleep, but even just those few hours in space had helped. Tim could tell that his glow had brightened considerably when he was in his phantom form. He'd have Duke check at breakfast in the morning to make sure. They said their goodnights at Danny's door. Danny was asleep as soon as his head hit the pillow. Notes. Constantine, what the fuck? Danny, that's what she said. Constantine, tries to smoke. Danny, not in my house, fucker. Constantine, why am I even here? Danny, portal. Constantine, excuse me? Danny, you heard me. Constantine, fuck. Danny, to the infinite realms. Constantine, I'ma pass out now. Constantine, tries to leave. Danny, sad trenchcoat man, you ain't going nowhere till I say so. Sit your ass back down. Constantine, fuck. That there is the goddamn Ghost King. Fucking hell, Batsy. Only you would adopt eldritch horrors. Martian Manhunter. Who is that, Red Robin? Red Robin. This is Phantom. Phantom. Gasp. An actual, for real alien. I have so many questions. Red Robin. Have fun with babysitting the child. Phantom acts like a child and sticks his tongue out at his brother. Also Phantom enjoys his time in space talking to an alien. Also Phantom. What do you mean Superman is an alien?